Week 15 sits, starts, free agent grabs, and holiday wishes. Must be time for the fantasy playoffs. Welcome to Keepers, I'm Matt Ufford, and I'm here to help with your fantasy playoff push. Assuming, of course, you didn't start Peyton Manning in Week 14. Huh, that's weird. Manning usually saves his worst games for January. Start Alfred Morris. With Colt McCoy's neck injury, the quarterback situation in Washington has somehow found new depths of dysfunction. They make the Raiders and Jaguars look stable. Look for Jay Gruden to go to a ground-heavy game plan against the Giants, who give up 4.9 yards per carry, worst in the NFL. Sit Andy Dalton. In case you forgot his Week 10 performance against the Browns, 10 of 33 for 86 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And that was in Cincinnati. He'll play better in the rematch. It would be impossible not to, but I still don't love a matchup where the team with the most interceptions in the league plays the quarterback who's thrown more picks than anyone besides Blake Bortles and Jay Cutler. Start Roddy White. The Steelers' secondary is a disaster and could be even worse with Ike Taylor hurt. They'll get picked apart by a surging Falcons passing game, especially on the Georgia Dome track. Look for White to get plenty of looks, particularly with the uncertainty surrounding Julio Jones' hip. Sit Ryan Matthews. Last week I noted that only 2 backs have rushed for more than 36 yards against the Broncos in their last 10 games. Make it 11 now, and I'm betting on it becoming 12. The Chargers will need to rely on Phillip Rivers' arm to move the ball, not Matthews' legs. And certainly not his fumbly hands. Start the Rams defense. Yeah, I know this is a layup, but the Rams D has back-to-back shutouts and is just way too fun to not talk about. And sure, those shutouts came against Derek Carr and Colt McCoy, but it's not like Drew Stanton is striking fear in Robert Quinn's heart. Zona will score in this one, but points will be at a premium for a Cardinals team that scored just 4 offensive touchdowns in the 4 games Stanton started since Carson Palmer tore his ACL. Sit Heath Miller. There aren't many things the Falcons do well on defense, but stopping tight ends is actually one of them, maybe the only one. They've only allowed 2 touchdowns to tight ends all year, probably because opponents' wide receivers and running backs are too busy scoring first. But with William Moore back in the lineup, Miller's not the tight end for you to stream this week. Start Eli Manning. Enjoy this one, Giants fans. This could be the last good game Eli ever plays in your jersey. The most guaranteed thing in the league this year is quarterbacks destroying the Washington Snyders. Their pass defense is dead last in DVOA, and in all of NFL history, only the winless 08 Lions have given up a passer rating higher than this year's Skins. Ugh. Sit Terrence Williams. Here's what Williams has done for you in his last 5 games. 5 catches for 75 yards and no touchdowns. And Romo didn't even look his way last week in Chicago. If his fingers hurt that badly and Jason Garrett won't bench him, at least you can. Start Isaiah Crowell. What do you do in a rookie quarterback's first start? Keep the game plan simple and dial up a lot of runs. Add in Cincinnati's porous rush D. Only the Falcons give up more fantasy points to running backs, and the Crow is a good play. No need to be afraid of the timeshare with Terrence West. Sit the Texans D. As much as I believe in J.J. Watt's ability to carry this otherwise mediocre defense, you know the Colts are going to score at least 30 points. That means the only way Watt and company are a good play is if they score a defensive touchdown. And while that's exactly what they did in Week 6 against the Colts, I wouldn't count on this as a reliable fantasy strategy. Some of you may have noticed that last week's episode didn't include a reality check, an oversight that I blame on a combination of exhaustion and mild incompetence. And it's a shame because this is the week I'd like to casually ignore last week's suggestions. I said to sit Ben Roethlisberger, who threw for 350 and 3 scores, start Kyle Rudolph, 9 yards, start Mark Ingram, 43 yards, start Mike Wallace, 3 catches for 39. Now, I did manage to recommend starting the Vikings D, which racked up 3 sacks and scored a touchdown, but there's really no getting around what was likely the worst episode of advice in Keepers history. And just in time for the playoffs. You're welcome. There's not much in the way of weather that could affect fantasy outcomes this week. Our best bet is Monday Night Football in Chicago, where early reports say 36 degrees and light rain. Nah. That's not gonna do it, Chicago. If I'm gonna watch 2 5 and 8 disappointments flail against each other like drunk toddlers for 3 hours, I'm gonna need a lot more precipitation and slightly colder weather. No way I'm sitting through this game without snow. Hire Charles Johnson and fire Cordero Patterson. Norv Turner shook things up during the Vikes Week 10 bye, and since then, Teddy Bridgewater has targeted Charles Johnson more than anyone else on the team. Johnson's responded with 15 catches for 283 yards and a couple scores in that time. Patterson is now the team's number 4 receiver behind Johnson, Greg Jennings, and Jarius Wright. Jarius Wright! Even Jarius Wright's family is like, come on, we drafted Cordero Patterson. Hire Kerwin Williams and fire Ben Tate. Williams has some tough games coming up, but touches equal fantasy relevance, and you could do worse than a guy who got 100 yards rushing for the Cardinals. That's more than Andre Ellington could do all year. As for Tate, Mike Zimmer said he wants more playing time for the free agent pickup, but don't expect a breakout game against Detroit, the league's best rush defense. That is all for Week 15 of Keepers. Happy holidays to you and your loved ones, and good luck this week. Go win your matchups so we can do this for one more episode. Set your lineups. See you next week.